found a connection to her through horses. And your grandmother would tell you stories of your mother's ranch life when she was a young woman in South Carolina. And she told you these stories about how your mother rode horses. And so you've sort of cited that horses have always been sort of a driving force behind your light as a person, the light that you put out there. They've made your life a better world, and um, maybe that's because there's connections there with your grandmother or with your mother, um, but you really have a joy and love for horses and what they bring to you. So my question is first about your grandmother. She sounds like such an amazing role model and person in your life. Can you bring her to life for us?
Yeah, I mean, she like it's hard for me to remember her super well because she passed away. I think I can't even remember how old I was. I was probably maybe 14, 15. But she was just like the epitome of love for me, really, was what she was. And so it was nice because we spent the summers in Texas, and that was kind of it was such a different world from what I was used to because I just think in general the South has such a different way of life compared to Los Angeles, which is where I grew up. And it's not that one is better than the other, but they're just different. And
Mhm.
so I always sort of had that ability to spend time with the family and be in the house together and like just be able to bond and connect at such a young age. And she would sit and paint me the story of like them living in South Carolina on this farm with all these horses. And it was just like, it became this very magical concept for me. And so, horses in hindsight kind of helped me merge that same ability to kind of ground, really. I mean, like I mean, I work two different jobs on top of doing music, and one is being a horse trainer. And that is just, it's very, it's a grounding career, and it just helps you connect with something that you can't verbally speak to. And I find music to sort of be in that same realm of being able, how can you communicate without directly saying something or
Mhm.
and I think there's a lot of beauty in different forms of communication. And so I think horses have sort of helped meld that communication of body language, intention, emotion, and then, my grandmother and my family in Texas kind of helped be the beacon to help light that up, essentially.
What did she teach you about life? Is there anything that you recall? I know you were young, but do you recall a lesson that she taught you or an outlook that you've adopted?
Not necessarily. I think it was just sometimes it sort of just is a feeling that people give you, and it's this feeling of safety. And I think that was something that she gave
Mm.
me that made me just feel very safe and loved, you know?
Grandmothers do that well, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. And there's another example of that unspoken communication or connection that different ways that you refer to that you can communicate. That's one of them. I think that just that love and that comfort that you're safe. That's,
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
that's a beautiful way to put it. Well, I know that when you were young, you felt that your voice didn't matter. Why did you feel that way?
I think, I grew up in a situation where I had to grow up very fast. And because of that, I didn't have a ton of, I guess like autonomy would be a good word for it, but I did also in a sense. So it was more, I was put into caretaker roles. And because I had to grow up really fast, I sort of had to be an adult at a very young age. So you don't really get the freedom, I think, to have a say in things when you're a kid. I don't think
Mhm.
any children really do to some extent. And so I spent a lot of time as a child like writing and doing art, and I've always been super creative. And I spent a lot of time like pen to paper just for so many years. And in middle school, I started learning how to play guitar, but I wasn't writing songs by any means. And then, I stopped for a long time and then didn't really pick that back up until I was in college and relearned guitar and then really started writing music. So, but in a sense, I've always had something to say, but I just put it like
Mhm.
on paper for a really long time.
And would you write stories or were you drawing or both, a little bit of both?
I
Like,
mean, it's hard to say. I wrote stories. I wrote stories for sure, but I just sort of wrote a lot about philosophy. Like I wrote a lot about the concepts and ideas of life and perceptions and um, just thoughts that were going on in my head. It was something that was like very philosophical and things like existentialism. And, I was just super into psychology. And so I always wanted to learn as much about the mind as possible. And I would just like make everything a theory, essentially.
were you alone a lot as a child?
Yes, I think. Well, yes and no. Like I was and I wasn't. It's a mix of both, I'd say.
When you look back at you mentioned you had to grow up so fast. Um, do you find yourself at this age revisiting childhood at all? Do you allow yourself to like maybe have some fun that you didn't allow yourself as a child?
I mean, 100%. That's, I think adulthood, especially when you get to like this point when you've been working for a long time, just being an adult for a while, I think that's when you get to learn how to be a kid again. Because when you're a kid, it's like you're a kid, and then you're trying to figure it all out for such a long time. And I say this to so many people, like, we're never going to be this young again. Like,
Hmm.
this is it. This is the youngest we're going to be. So whatever you
Today,
want to do,
today is
do it.
the right,
Like do it right now. You want to
right
go and
now.
like run through the sprinklers and like lay out in the rain. It's like just do it because this is it. Like we're gonna
What
be
is the
young and
last thing you did? That's such a good point. I agree. What's the last thing you did that was childish and a guilty pleasure that
I mean, I'm doing it all the time, honestly. Like I'm just the kind of person where like I will just be dancing all the time, like singing all the time. Like I'm like a little kid at heart, and it's like really nice because my husband has helped bring that out in me. And so it's like it's kind of fun to just be like I'm in general just kind of like a silly like
Mhm.
person. So I think whenever there's an opportunity to, you know, be childlike, I think it's really great to do as an adult because it's easy to lose that
Yeah,
part of yourself as an adult.
yeah, yeah. To be childlike again. When's the last time you ran through the sprinklers?
I mean, I can't say I've ran through the sprinklers anytime recently, but I certainly do love the rain for that reason. So
Yeah.
I'm like always looking forward to the rain because like the rain, I really just like to be like, yes, like just rain upon me.
I like that. Well, when you were young, singing kept you company. How else, uh, how did you discover singing and music? And do you feel like you were good at that point, or did it matter? It was just singing for the pure joy of singing.
That's a good question. Like when I was really young, my parents put me into like acting and singing lessons and stuff. And I think they were like trying to get me into acting. And I think there was just a point where I was like, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't know. I was like a really shy kid.
Hmm.
And I can't say like whether I was like good or not. Like I'm not sure about that, but I certainly when I was scared, I would sing as loud as I could. And it was just like the echo of the sound made me feel safer. And so I would be like singing in the shower and just like singing in places where I felt like I needed a voice somewhere. And so that helped me, but it's funny because like I've noticed recently that people who sing, I think there's just something in us that has this need to like want to be heard. Like it's just something that's like so deep in you and it's just like it comes so naturally. I don't think it's anything that like it's one thing to like try to have a good voice and try to sound good and build that muscle. That's I think different, but the intention between like wanting to have a voice and wanting to have some like something come out of you. I think that's just something that's so deep and I'm not sure where it comes from, but I think singers just initially have that within them.
Do you remember the moment, was there a moment when you were singing and you said, "Wow, I actually have a good voice"? Did you get
That's a
shocked?
good
You know what I
question.
mean? Were you surprised by it? Did you surprise yourself?
I don't necessarily think I felt that way for a long time. There, I sang for a long time, but I don't think I had the skill for a while in order to like have projection. And I trained myself how to have projection essentially by listening to this artist called Lady Lamb. And she was just like a belter, like a big belter. And the second I discovered her, I was like, oh my God, like I love this. And I would just sing and sing to her to the point where, like, not in a healthy way, where like my voice was out and I couldn't talk. And I would just do it over and over again. And eventually I trained my voice to be able to really belt because I couldn't do that for a very, very long time. And so I really have her to thank for that because now I can really belt and like now it's at the point where I need to like almost scale it back, you know?
I
But
think you should give us an example.
an example of belting.
Yeah. Let it all out.
I
Um,
mean, I could, yeah.
well, only if you want to. I wouldn't mind, but I'm not going to put you on the spot. So I don't know where I read this, or maybe it was a lyric, but there was a mention of this time in your life when you felt like you didn't have a voice yet, or you weren't being heard, that your struggle was sort of quiet and internalized. Has music changed that? Has it given you a voice to all the things that were inside, but now you can really let out and you've got a voice that's recognized?
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, art has been able to do that. Like, I don't think it needs to be one thing specifically because I've just having been an artist throughout my life has really helped me do that in different ways. But music has created this avenue and it sort of landed in this perfect time in my life where I wanted to connect with people more. I wanted to build sort of this community around myself, and music is such a perfect thing to do that with because it introduces you into this lifestyle where you're surrounded by all these amazing, talented people. And some different genres of art can kind of keep you a little bit more isolated, a little more segregated at times. And so it was nice because it sort of just landed right in this perfect pocket where I was like, I just want to be surrounded around as many amazing people as I can. And so I think music absolutely has given me a voice, but in regards to that specific art form, but also like doing photography helped me do that in a different way as well.
Hmm.
So it's sort of just a different, way of doing it.
Um, you said from the age of 16 that you struggled with severe anxiety and depression, and as a result, you had to take some medication and antidepressants. And the reason I bring it up, that's very personal. And I bring it up because I think this is a story I hear a lot right now. And I think our listeners, you could help our listeners by maybe sharing how you've overcome and how you were able to almost rewire yourself a little bit, how you've been able to come, get through the darkness. And I think you've got a beautiful viewpoint about the light and how the light and how to go to the light. And um, it became your mantra, searching for the light. Can you describe your mantra? To describe what has helped you?
I mean, I like a lot what you said about the concept of light. Like, I think light and love are sort of the two main things that are the most important in this life and things that can easily get lost. And
Hmm.
so I think it's a good sort of beacon to follow of like when you get lost, just think of love and light and what does that really look like? And that kind of keeps you on that path. But it's a journey, I think, for most people nowadays. There's, each individual person has a struggle of some sort. And
Hmm.
so it's about, just conceptually understanding that there's a place to trust the journey and the lessons that you're being taught instead of feeling like they're happening to you. It's like it's happening for you. Like, why is that happening? What's there to learn?
Yeah, I
And
can.
that's the important thing to stay focused on.
What does the love and the light look like to you?
I think love is looking like when you're looking at other people, let's say, it's seeing yourself in them. And then light is in general just, I think, embodying who you are to bring more joy into other people's lives.
You are a philosopher.
Yeah.
You weren't kidding. Uh, Good for the career for songwriting. A good, it's a good skill to have. So you started out, I guess, if I could say started out, but you originally wanted to be a photographer. So you went to New York City, 18 years old. You majored in photography. Um, what was that like? Were you scared? That's a young age to go to a big city. I guess you lived in LA, so you were
Yeah.
in the big
I
city,
mean,
but
I was not scared until like a week before I was about to leave. Like a week before I was about to leave, that's when it started really hitting me. And I was like, oh my God.
what am I doing?
But it was, I mean, New York City, like, I mean, such a magical place. I know it's not for everyone, and I definitely would not be living there now at this point in time, but it's such a magical place. And to be 18 in like such a big city, and it's the first time you're by yourself and you're across the country. I mean, it's scary, but it's such a magical thing to be able to even just have the opportunity to do that. So,
And
yeah.
even more so, I mean, I'm just romanticizing your life there, but even more so, looking at that city and that time of your life and the magic and the excitement of being out on your own for the first time and looking through a camera lens, and framing what you're seeing. That feels like what a great way to do it and what a great way to go. Who did you leave behind? Were there people that you left behind that you were
I mean, I kind
scared
of
to
left
leave
everyone
behind?
behind. I didn't know anyone in New York,
Okay.
I left my parents, my brother, like I left everybody, my friends, like, but it was interesting because like I had already been looking for colleges outside of California, but I was, pretty open to anything. But when I landed in New York, it was like, this is home. Like it felt super
Oh,
familiar. It felt like I had been there before, and I just was like, this is where I'm meant to be. And so it's interesting because like it's like the concept of home, I think we have different variabilities of that. And it's like the home could be where you're from, but home is also could be somewhere you've never been, but it's like, it could be some place inside of you. So it's like, um, I mean, till this, like I have to go to New York at least every 2 to 3 years. I start to
yeah.
get like edgy if I don't hit it a little bit. Every couple years. So will always have a special place in my heart for sure. It's an amazing city.
It is. It is such a special place, and there's something about it that's electric. That like you said, you have to go every couple of years because, and if you understand that statement, like I do, I'm sure people that have been there know what you're saying is that it almost breathes some life into you again, right? You start going, uh, everything sharpens in your world, and you maybe make sense of it all, and also get re-inspired for your everyday life.
Yeah,
When
absolutely.
did you first pick up a camera and say, "Hey, I got an eye for this. I want to do this"?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because like I started with like, I mean, back in the day, it was like probably one of like the first cell phone cameras. I don't even, it was like a flip phone. And I just would like take pictures of really random things like raindrops on a tree, just things that like weren't common. And then I had like a little point and shoot that I used for a really long time. And so I started doing more like still photography, and then I essentially started doing more portraiture stuff. And um, when I was like 16, I started interning for fashion photographers and things like that. And then I was like hooked. I was like, oh my God, fashion is so cool, and that's why like I just went to New York and got to do that. And so it was a really, really fun time to be in that industry for sure.
You know what I like? You just gave me an idea. I think would be a very cool idea for and maybe it's not a photography showing. Would be to take flip phones, take one now, and kind of recreate what you used to do, what you used to shoot, and it's a flip phone photography studio show. And so I'd go check that out. That's,
No, totally. I mean,
you know,
I've always,
not perfect, but cool.
yeah, I've always genuinely felt like it doesn't matter what camera you have. It's all about the eye. Like at the
Yeah.
end of the day, it's about what you see. Like you can do it on any camera. To me, it's like all the
S-
same, you
So
know.
speaking of that, with the eye, the seeing, falling in love with a photograph. Do you remember, was there like a particular photograph or a particular photographer that first drew you to love photography that inspired you?
It's interesting because it actually was Andy Warhol who kind of inspired me. I wasn't like a crazy fan of his art or anything, but I really admired him as an artist, and I liked that he had so much influence, um, just even after the fact that he was gone. And so, to me, seeing, someone be able to continue to have influence after they've passed was really kind of like enticing for me. I was like, that would be kind of nice to just like be able to leave something behind. That way it's like you have lived and you have left something, and what no matter what it is. And so
Is
I
that
liked that
important to
idea
you?
a lot.
Yeah, I like that idea too. Is that important to you? Because I did read something that said you want to be remembered, you want to leave a mark on this world and inspire people to pursue all that their heart can bear. That's important to you
I
to
mean, I
leave
think it's a
a
little
legacy?
less important to me now. Like as when I was a kid, it was super important to me. I've just kind of come to terms that whatever my journey is my journey, and like if I can um, leave a good imprint even on just one person, that's enough. Because I think it's easy to get caught up on like the idea of like numbers, and I don't, it's like some people really want to be famous or whatever. It's more so to me just being genuine enough to
Hmm.
stay that way. You know what I mean? Because it's easy to
Yeah.
get caught up. You can sometimes get a little too focused on the future, and then the present gets a little lost. And so I
Right.
like to keep it in this little like spot where it's like whatever happens, happens. Like it's all great, you know?
Yeah, that's a great point. When you were young, you found your voice and you started singing. Uh, in your early 20s, late teens, you found yourself through photography. What did through singing, you learned that you had a voice and confidence. And what did you learn through your photography about yourself?
Photography, it's funny because photography for me felt so opposite to what I'm doing with the music because I was essentially behind the camera and I
Mhm.
was not being seen. I wasn't ever being photographed or anything like that. I was sort of behind the scenes and kind of hiding behind something. And I really loved that. At the time it was like it was kind of this safe place, and um being able to just like be around all these beautiful models all the time where they're like angelic, it's like, oh my gosh, it was a really, really cool world to be in. But it taught me to really like, especially with film photography, I think film photography taught me more than anything because it teaches you to take your time and to be patient, but also to like you really have to savor each moment because you don't get an infinite amount of photos to take. Each one takes like, 3 to 5 hours to process because we would be in the dark room and processing each image, and you had to make sure you really liked what image you were doing because you're going to spend a lot of time on it. And so it really trained me to really think about what I was doing and how when you have like an essence of not being able to do things over and over and over again just repetitively, it really like squares everything down to going like, how can I make this one thing really good, you know? And so that was really helpful.
When I'm listening to you and your stories, um, something kind of an idea popped out to me about you. When you were young, you spent a lot of time alone, and you went into your own world. You were writing and you were creating and studying philosophy and really analyzing the world around you. And then, uh, but then you realized, you have something to say too, and you're your voice became louder. And then it sounds like you almost kind of went back a little bit to the childhood where you felt comfortable behind the camera and creating behind the camera, and maybe some comfort in that from your childhood. Do you feel, and then now here you are being very brave and putting out an EP and putting your true thoughts and feelings into lyrics and music and sharing it with the world. Do you feel conflicted? Is there two sides to you um, that battle each other? The side that likes to be alone and to be thoughtful and quiet, and the side that also needs to express yourself.
I think it's been sort of more of like a morphing because now I don't really like being alone. Like I think I I enjoy being behind the scenes, but at the same time I think my need and want to connect with others has overpowered the isolation aspect. And so I kind of essentially morphed into a different version of myself, and I think essentially, as we grow and heal, then you start to kind of become the person you always were, like
Right.
who are you without the protection piece? What's under there, And so I think as I've grown, I've just become a little bit more like wanting to like just get as much around me as I can.
Hmm. Well, then we move on to one of the loves of your life. You are an inspiring professional dressage writer. I
Hmm.
think I know what that means, but and for a lot of your life, you were working towards achieving a bronze medal, and your dream was to become a professional horse trainer. I know you're doing that now, right? You're still training.
Hmm.
Are all those dreams still something that you're pursuing?
Yeah, yeah, they are. It's like it's been a crazy journey through that, but it's been a really eye-opening one. I mean, I sort of jumped around from like doing hunter jumpers and then ending up in dressage, and um I think in hindsight all of the disciplines with horses sort of mesh together to some extent
Hmm.
because there's so many different ways to train a horse. But you can really get kind of like to the same goal in a lot of different variabilities. And horses are just, I think the reason so many people gravitate towards them, I mean, some people don't because they can be a little fearful of them, and which is completely understandable because they are dangerous animals, but they really do put a mirror up in front of yourself. Like they really make you look at yourself because they're very triggering animals. So, but yeah, to be able to do dressage, it's like, and especially at these high levels, it's a game changer. It really makes you look at things really differently.
I mean, I'm so curious. We could talk probably a long time about the triggering that horses cause. I'm so curious about that. And I could
Yeah.
the rest of the show with those questions. Um, so you came back from New York. I think you were there 5 years,
Yeah.
and you came back to LA, and then your love for horses was reignited when you began gentling Mustangs.
Hmm.
And you said for what seemed like the first time in your life, you felt truly happy. Why?
That's a good question. It was funny because I was sort of in this spot of easing out of photography, and I had defined myself as a photographer for so many years. I couldn't even imagine not doing it anymore. But it was sort of interesting how it happened because I was, taking lessons at this barn, and this girl was like, "Hey, why don't you come up to Santina's and like this girl just like might give you a horse, if you go work there." And I was like, I was living in Hollywood at the time. I was like, I'm not gonna drive to Santina's, like, but I'll go, why not? And,
Not like
I,
2.5 hour, 3 hour drive
yeah, I
for
mean, but
those that don't live here.
I spent one day there, and I mean, I think within the first 3 hours, I got head butted and my mouth was bleeding because Mustangs are like totally different than domesticated horses. And when you're only around domesticated horses, when you go around an unbroke Mustang, it's completely different experience because you're not used to having your guard up as much because they're so dangerous. But I just remember like sun going down, hay in my hair, super dirty. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, I love this. This is what I want to do, and it's a different, completely different shift than what I was doing in fashion photography, because fashion photography was, it's a lot about vanity, it's a lot about status, and going from that into, the horses don't care what you look like, they don't care what you dress like, they just care about your intention and the fact that you can teach them. So it was complete opposite of what I was doing, and I think that's why I loved it so much. It was really eye-opening in a very different way that I had not experienced yet.
All right. So now I want you to tell me a little bit about meeting your husband, Kyle Sarvis. Did you know right away he was your soulmate?
No, I did not know that at all. I think he did, but it was funny because like we met at the gym. I was working like front desk at the gym at the time, and I had seen him a couple times, but he didn't like really ever make eye contact with me or anything. So I was just kind of like, oh, like whatever. And then our coworker introduced us, and it was funny because I was kind of in this point where I was like a little jaded, I like had just come from some like relationships where I was like, I just wasn't in the mood for dating at the time. So I was a little like, And so
Which made him want you more.
I mean, I don't know about that. You'd have to ask him that. But he
Trust me.
a real breath of fresh air because he was like so kind and just so nice. I mean, he's from the Midwest, so I haven't met a lot of people from the Midwest, and he was just like such a sweet, kind person. And so
Good Midwest boy.
yeah, good Midwest boy. So it was like just a nice breath of fresh air to.
Was he a musician when you met him?
No, actually. And it was funny because like I always sort of like had this idea that I would be with a musician, but he had like played guitar. I think he did flamenco guitar for a little bit, but he wasn't an active musician or anything. And when we met, like I wasn't even really playing that much music. But it was funny because like, at this point we've been together almost 7 years now. So it's really these past like 3 years where we've started really doing it. But at that point in time, I had been writing music for a really long time, but I wasn't a producer by any means. So I was like making these songs, but I had no one to help me put them out. And so I just sort of kept writing and doing that. And after our wedding, we played a song at our wedding, which was really nice. And then
You guys wrote a song together, right, for your wedding and
it
performed
was
it?
like it's hard to say. I don't know whether I can say I wrote it because it was sort of a cover that we reworked. So I don't know how that would work technically in terms of that. But we sang it's a song called Paying 33 by Iron and Wine, and then we just kind of like changed some of the verses. But we did that, and leading up to that, we had been doing ballroom dancing. Um, for our wedding. So we did this like big choreographed dance for our wedding, which was really cool. And then after we're like, well, we're not going to become dancers. So like now what do we do? Because we had discovered having this hobby together was like so great. And I was like, why don't we just start doing music? And he's a visual effects artist by day, so he's, just really savvy when it comes to computers and, programming and things like that. And so he's like, oh, I can learn how to produce. And so we just kind of went on this journey together and started putting music out.
Your music has been described as a sensory experience. Also, I think you guys self-described sonic storytelling. What is
Mhm.
sonic storytelling?
I think it's essentially storytelling in the way of, using sound frequency, right? But I think in hindsight, it's being able to say something in a way that's purely audio based, but making you feel something internally at the same time.
Yeah, I'm going to quote you. I think this is you quoting you. Our music is a reflection of a life steeped in emotion, a journey through deep experiences where each story is told with raw honesty and vulnerability. And I hope this quote is yours. I borrowed it, I took it, I love it. It says, "If art is how we decorate space, music is how we decorate time." Did you
And
say
I
that?
love that quote, but I can't take credit for
Oh, you
it.
should have just done it. I would have
It's
nobody.
a funny story, that quote too, because my husband said that to me one time and I was like, "Oh my God, that's beautiful."
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm gonna steal that from him. That's good, And then I realized it's actually a very famous quote.
He stole it from somebody.
Yes. And I was like, oh, never
But he
mind.
got you. He married you. It worked.
But yeah, it's a beautiful quote. I believe it to be. It's from this musician, Jean-Michel Basquiat or something like that, some Frenchman, but really a good artist. But yeah,
I
not
like it.
not my quote.
We're almost out of time, Asia, unfortunately. This has been so much fun talking to you. Is there I have to ask because I think everybody out there is probably asking the same question or wishes I would. Dear Southern Belle, what's the story behind the name?
I don't think there's like a specific story behind the name itself. Essentially, though, the way that I perceive the name is it's a a letter, like the music is a letter that I am writing to myself.
Mhm.
And I think that's the best way to put it.
What did you think of the letter I read at the opening?
I loved it. It was so great. It reminds me of
Sweet.
um this song actually that I haven't finished writing, but it's called Dear Sailor, and it's like about this woman who keeps falling in love with these like men, and it has that kind of same vibe,
Mhm.
this like very vintagey. The girl ends up being a murderer, but aside from that, it's
Oh, wow.
like
What's going on?
it's
What's going on in your
it's a
head?
cool
Yeah.
song though. It's a cool
I was
song.
all I love it. Well, Broken Melodies. Let's talk about a couple of your songs real quick. Again, I've got 3 minutes left, unfortunately, but I don't want to say goodbye. But Broken Melodies, we played that. I believe that was the song that I opened up with, and maybe we went out with. Um, what would you like to say about Broken Melodies
Yeah, I mean,
or Drowning
Broken
Bird?
Melodies is it was ended up, we decided to do that as our first song, and I wrote it doing this songwriting class that we decided to do together, and so I wrote it pretty quickly. But it's just like a good formula to, I think, which I assume some people can relate to, and just like the fact that it's hard to accept being loved, right? I think
Mhm.
that was sort of where that came from. It's yeah, it's just like how can you accept being loved unconditionally, you know? So
And Drowning Bird. Such beautiful lyrics in this one.
yeah, Drowning Bird, I wrote like, God, I think I wrote it like 10 years ago, 12 years ago. And it just sort of like spat out of me and I just kept it. And it was, a song. The thing I like about that song is that I feel like it's pretty straightforward, you know?
Mhm.
But yeah, it's a little bit of just how can you save yourself when you need to be saved, but you don't want to be saved by anyone else, you know? That's what I think that one's really about.
It's the sound of vulnerability and the quiet storm of trying to save yourself.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Haunted Mansion. Do you have macabre side to you? It sounds like a little bit.
I mean, Haunted Mansion like was sort of like based out of my like childhood home. And it was just mega haunted, that house. I mean, my gosh, like really creepy. And so that was sort of the inspiration for that song. Um, it's not, I don't perform it, to be quite honest. I was at some point, but not anymore. But yeah, I would like to do some different renditions of that one eventually. But yeah, that one's just like kind of just, it was right around Halloween. I put that one out, so I wanted it to be super creepy and just like very haunting. And so it was fun. We had our friend Matt do the violin on that one, and he's super talented, so he really helped make that song come to life.
All right, then there's your newest single right now. You just put this out, All the Animals.
Yeah. And that one, again, I wrote that one a really long time ago. It was sort of just this like sweet lullaby, and we decided to do that one. It's hard for me to tell whether my songs are good or not, so I kind of use other people like, do you like this? Is it good? And so my husband really liked it, and he's like, let's just put it out. And it was in perfect timing because we just had to put our dog down, who I had for 15 years, and so
Mm.
like the last thing we did with him was record his heartbeat and put it in the song, and that was
Oh, is that what it is? Is it the very end there?
And so it was just like the timing of it happened in this way where it was almost meant to be, and I was just like, this is, such a good little like
Yeah.
lullaby to put out, you know,
What a
just a little
beautiful.
sprinkle to put out right before the EP because I just want to put out as much as I can, you know.
Well, I'm sorry for your loss. That's
Thank you.
really,
Appreciate it.
that is beautiful at the end there. I thought it was maybe horses running, but now it
Mm,
makes sense. The beat,
yeah.
heartbeat. All right. Asia, been so great talking to you.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Asia from Dear Southern Belle. Yeah, it's when you guys drop the EP or you drop any more singles, please send them to us. We'll put them on Radio Evolve
Absolutely. Thank you
and
so
our other
much.
shows. All right, so the new EP, mark your calendars. Can they pre-save it anywhere, Asia?
Not at the moment.
Okay, well then just mark your calendar. I'll remind you because it's when it comes out, we'll definitely um, put some of the music out and talk about it some more. So the EP is called Still Here Despite It All. It's the Near Dear Southern Belle EP coming October 2025, right around the corner. Okay, here's where you can find Dear Southern Belle. You can find them on dearsouthernbelle.com, and all of their socials are there. So that's probably the easiest way to get to them and get to their music. Sign up for updates, tour dates, and I'm sure you'll have some merch up there soon. But it's fall's coming. I'd love to have a Dear Southern Belle um, hoodie or
Absolutely. We'll
cap.
get one for you for
Okay.
sure.
On Instagram, you can find them at Dear Southern Belle. Thank you so much, Asia.
You. Have
We'll
a great
talk
rest of your day.
soon. You
Okay.
have a great rest of your day as well. Communicate, but listen more and evolve. Have a great day, everyone.